So moneyness, this is one of the building blocks of the whole options market. If you don't understand this, you're never going to make it. Hey, Jim Schultz here with you guys for F Cubed and livefcubed.com. And today we are talking all about moneyness. So if this is a term that you are familiar with, hey man, drop me a moneyness comment down below along with your favorite emoji. All right, now quick little forewarning here before we even get going. This video is about to be 117 minutes long. And it might be a little dry. It might be a little boring. Kind of like my boneless, skinless. But similar to daddy's chicken, as my kids like to call it. Hey, don't cry about it. Don't complain. Just say thank you and move on. All right, so moneyness. Moneyness is so important. Moneyness is so critical to understanding the world of options, especially as a beginner trader. Here is the first thing that you want to understand and recognize. There are three forms of moneyness. There's in the money, there's out of the money, and there's at the money. And here's the first piece to the puzzle that we are going to begin to put together here today. An option can only be one of those three things at any given point in time. It's not a Venn diagram where there could be a little bit of overlap. It's not a situation where there's some shared space where an option can be both, in the money and out of the money at the same time. These are distinct states where an option can only live in one of these states at any given moment in time. All right, so those are the three states of moneyness. And whether you're an option buyer or an option seller, like whether you prefer to play options from the long side or options from the short side, it doesn't matter. You need to wrap your mind around in the money, out of the money, and at the money. Now, on that note of this whole idea of option buyers and option sellers, option buyers want options to go in the money. They want options to go deep in the money if possible. Option sellers, on the contrary, they want options to go or stay out of the money, or go or stay deep out of the money. And this kind of traces back to this whole idea of options being zero-sum games. Right? What one party wants, the other party doesn't want. Both parties are not happy at the same time. And this kind of gets back to this distinct nature of the different states of moneyness. It's out of the money, in the money, or at the money, right? Either the option buyer is happy or the option seller is happy. It really can't be both. So let's work through an example. Let's say that we are looking at Amazon stock, and we are looking specifically at a 108 strike call. Now, for this example, for the purposes of this example, let's assume that I'm the option buyer because I don't really know what I'm doing. And let's assume that you are the option seller because you've been watching my channel for a while and you've learned a lot. All right, so now we've kind of got the game set. Let's further assume, and this is really important for me to make the point that I want to make. Let's assume that both you and I are going to hold our contracts all the way to expiration. And at expiration, we're going to settle the score. Right? At expiration, we're going to tally up the gains and the losses. Whatever I make, you lose. Whatever you make, I lose. We're going to hold this guy all the way to expiration. Now, in the spirit of completeness, I have to mention, of course, there are a lot of other things that we could do to close out our position, to trade around that position or inside of that position over the life of that trade. But I want to keep things very, very simple. Let's keep things simple. Let's keep things focused on the task at hand today, which is understanding moneyness. All right, so let's suppose that Amazon rises up to 115. In that scenario, I'm going to be super happy. I'm going to be super happy because I'm sitting on a long call with a strike at 108. Right? The rest of the world, all the commoners, all the peasants, all the plebes, they have to buy Amazon at 115. But I have this special privilege, this special right with this long call where I can buy Amazon for 108. So you can see that there's a built-in gain that this option contract provides me. There's an incremental benefit over trading in the stock itself. In this example, the intrinsic value would be exactly $7, right? I can buy the stock for 108 when it's actually worth 115. That difference is $7. Well, the higher and higher and higher that Amazon goes, the better and better and better it gets for me because it's building up more intrinsic value. So now it's not $7, it's $9, it's $12, it's $15 because all of these things, all of these price levels higher and higher and higher, they're going to send the option price higher and higher and higher. I bought the option contract for some price when you and I established this contract. And if the stock continues going higher, it's going to build up more and more intrinsic value, which is going to send the option price higher and higher because an option price only has two parts: intrinsic value and extrinsic value. All right, so to continue with this example, let's hold the price at 115 and let's fast forward all the way to expiration. Let's fast forward all the way to expiration because what that's going to do is it's going to remove the extrinsic value portion of the option price, because extrinsic value only exists when there's time left in the trade. If we're at expiration, there's no time left, so extrinsic value has to be zero. The option price will only be intrinsic value. All right, so we're at expiration. The price is 115. I'm super happy. Where does that make you? Whatever the antonym to happy is, maybe sad, maybe mad, maybe angry, maybe frustrated, maybe confused. You could be any of these things. At expiration, this is going to be the situation that we find ourselves in. And now it's time to settle the score. Right? I bought this call contract from you, and the intrinsic value has helped me, so the intrinsic value has hurt you. But now it's time to tally up those gains and those losses. Let's say, for the purposes of this example, that when we originated this contract, several weeks ago or whatever, I bought the contract from you for $3. Right now, Amazon is $115. The strike price of the contract is $108. So the intrinsic value of this contract is $7. The option price is going to be $7 because, again, we're at expiration, so there's no extrinsic value. So if I paid you $3 and I'm up $7, based on the intrinsic value in the contract, I'm going to net out to +4. Now, at the beginning of the contract, you were on the other side of all of this, so you collected $3 at the beginning. You're now on the hook to pay $7 of intrinsic value that the option contract has gained, so you net out to the opposite of me, which is -4. All right, so there's one example, but I don't want to leave you out to dry. You're the short side of the contract, right? You are the future winner. You are the future champion of the markets. I'm not going to leave you out to dry. Let's work through an out of the money example. All right, so same scenario, right? 108 strike call. I bought it from you. You sold it to me. We're going to hold this guy all the way to expiration. Now, as you can probably already glean from the in the money example that we went through, I'm not really super interested until Amazon gets over 108. Now, again, sidebar, it's more complicated than that. There's more things going on. We're going to get to all those moving parts later on. Let's put all those guys up on the shelf right next to the sugar-free syrup, and we'll bring it back down when the time calls for it. But right now, we're holding this guy all the way to expiration. I'm not interested until Amazon gets over 108. To be more specific, I am not interested until Amazon starts building up some intrinsic value, starts building up some in the moneyness. So as long as Amazon stays below that 108 marker, that 108 hurdle, that 108 strike price, then you, the option seller, you are in the driver's seat. You are in the driver's seat because me as the option buyer, if Amazon is at 100, I'm not going to buy Amazon for 108 using my call option when I can just go into the market with the rest of the common peasants and buy it for 100. That doesn't make any sense. And so a price of 100, you're not really concerned. A price of 102, you're not really concerned. A price of 105, you're not really concerned, etc., etc. Now, naturally, you as the option seller, like, yes, 100 and 105 both don't really hurt you, but you would much prefer Amazon to be at 100 than 105 simply because it's even further away from the strike, so it has an even higher hurdle that it has to jump over before it moves in the money. And to be very clear, just to loosely reference one of those moving parts that we put up on the shelf, we'll bring it down here just for a hot second. If you sold that call when Amazon was at 100, and then in the next couple of days, it moved up to 105, let's say, you are going to experience a negative P&L in your position from that move. Now, we'll explain why that is. We'll explain how that works at another point in time. But today is not the day for sugar-free syrup, right? It's a weekday. It's a Wednesday. Let's keep it clean. Let's keep it tight. Let's keep it business-like. Maybe we'll let that guy loose on the weekend. Now, the reason why you will be experiencing a negative P&L largely traces back to this idea of, even though the option doesn't have any intrinsic value yet, it will be gaining extrinsic value. Now, it's going to be gaining extrinsic value for potentially a couple of different reasons, but one of the main reasons is what I like to refer to as the proximity effect. Effectively, the distance between the stock price and the strike price, the proximity effect, it has an impact on the extrinsic value of that option. When the stock moves closer to the strike price, the proximity effect is stronger. And because of a stronger proximity effect, the extrinsic value in the option is going to increase. So that's going to hurt you as the option seller, because remember, you want the option price to stay low. You want the option price to go down. You do not want it to go up. Whether it be intrinsic value or extrinsic value, you want to keep that thing as low as possible. Conversely, when the stock is further away from the strike, or the stock moves further away from the strike, the proximity effect is weaker. And this weaker proximity effect actually sends the extrinsic value down. And so this effectively explains why you prefer Amazon to be at 100 over 105. Both scenarios are out of the money, so there is no intrinsic value, but the impact on extrinsic value is very different. Amazon at 100 and Amazon at 105. But again, I don't really want to get into all of that right now because it's a very detailed discussion in its own right, but it was kind of relevant to what we were talking about right now, and it popped into my noggin, so I thought, hey, let's put it out there. Let's drop that breadcrumb on the trail just to help you all out, but we'll get into a more detailed discussion on that whole idea of proximity effects and impacts on extrinsic values and all those kinds of things later on, but right now, let's put it back up on the shelf, and we'll bring it back down when it matters. But let's get back to the task at hand. So call options, where the stock price is below the strike price. This is very good for you as the option seller. This option being out of the money is exactly what you want because the price doesn't have any intrinsic value. It only has 100% extrinsic value. And remember, all out of the money options must expire worthless. All out of the money options and the extrinsic value associated with those options has to converge on zero at expiration because there isn't any time left. So there's no time left for anything to happen. The extrinsic value has to be gone. All right, so hopefully now you're kind of getting a handle on in the money versus out of the money, at least as it relates to calls. So let's work through a put example and let's move through this guy a little bit more quickly because you're probably getting the hang of this. Let's use Netflix for our example. And let's suppose that the put contract has a strike price of 170. Again, I bought it because I don't know what I'm doing. You sold it because you do know what you're doing. Now, just to be clear, by buying a put, I now have the right to sell shares at the strike price. And if I choose to do that, you, the one who sold the put, you have to buy them. So I bought the put, which gives me the right to sell the shares. You sold the put, which might force you to buy the shares. Now, I've been doing this for a very, very, very long time, man, and this is usually where people's heads begin to spin. They're like, wait, I bought it, I sold it, but I bought it. Like, I don't quite know what's going on. So if this is all kind of brand new to you and you've just started your options journey, then click on the card above, which is either up here or up here. It's on one of these sides. Click on the card above for the piece that we put together on just basic options, basic long call, long put, short call, short put. If the card is not up there, somewhere up there, then that means I haven't done the video yet. But hopefully it's coming out soon, and it is coming out soon. So it will be up there very, very soon. But it's important that we go through the put side of things too, because this absolutely relates to what I want, what you want, what the longs want, what the shorts want, you know, in the moneyness, out of the moneyness, and all the different nesses that exist in the marketplace. We have to understand, you know, puts as well as calls. So getting back to our Netflix example, with the strike price at 170, I have a long put, you have a short put. I want the stock to fall below 170. So let's say it fell down to 150. That would be great for me because now the option has $20 of intrinsic value because it is in the money by $20. Right? I can sell it for 170, the strike price of my put, when the rest of the common folk have to sell it for 150. All right, so let's fast forward to expiration. Let's say the stock price stayed at 150. That's going to be very good for me. That's going to be very bad for you. So let's say at the beginning of the contract, I paid you $5 for this guy. Well, it has intrinsic value of $20. It's expiration, so there's no extrinsic value. But I'm up 20 on the intrinsic value. I'm out 5 on the cost of the contract. I'm plus 15. You, on the other hand, you collected 5 on entry, but you've got to fork over $20 of intrinsic value because we're going to settle the score here at expiration, so you are down 15. So clearly, with a put option, the lower the stock goes, the better it is for the long, me in this scenario, and the worse it is for the short, you in this scenario. And that's because, again, for the 88th time in this video, the lower the stock goes, the more intrinsic value it builds up, which is better for the long. The more intrinsic value the option builds up, the worse it is for the short. Now, conversely, if Netflix goes up above your strike price of 170 in this example, this is great for you. This is great for you because if Netflix goes up to 200, let's say, this option is out of the money. Why is it out of the money? It's out of the money because it's not giving the long, me, any intrinsic value, right? I'm not going to use my put contract to sell Netflix at 170 when I can go into the marketplace with the rest of the regular folk and sell it for 200. It doesn't make any sense. So that's why it's a good situation for you, the put seller, because it has no intrinsic value. Now, again, alongside all of this, you've got, extrinsic values, you've got time decays, you've got proximity effects, you've got other things that are going on that are going to impact and influence your P&L. But just keeping things very simple from a moneyness only standpoint, this is a good scenario for you. The option is out of the money. And of course, if the stock goes even higher and it gets further out of the money, that's an even better scenario for you. All right, so that's in the money and that's out of the money. That's how each one of those guys relates to intrinsic value, which is going to be the primary driver of moneyness. But what about our last situation? What about an option that is at the money? Well, this one is actually going to be very, very simple. An at the money option is nothing more than a situation where the stock price and the strike price are the same. So whether it's 50 and 50 or 100 and 100, call it or put it, doesn't matter. An at the money option is where there's a perfect overlay between the stock price and the strike price. Now, given the fact that stock prices move so quickly and they can change sometimes drastically in the blink of an eye, it should be no surprise that options don't normally stay at the money for very long because it has to be technically a perfect overlay to the penny. Now, as unlikely as that might be from a perfect at the money overlay situation, if that were to happen at expiration, since that's kind of the scenario that we are fast forwarding towards in all of these different examples, then it's going to behave very much like an out of the money option. It's going to behave like an out of the money option simply because it has no intrinsic value. There is no incremental benefit in that option over and above the stock because the stock and the strike are the same in that scenario. So there's no intrinsic value. So it's no different than an out of the money option at expiration. Now, again, another disclaimer. There's a million other things going on, right? Like there's so many other things going on. There's all kinds of moving parts. The pantry's getting super full. We got this happening over there. We got this happening over there and all that kind of stuff. But I really just wanted to hone in on moneyness for this video. And so from a moneyness standpoint, at the money and out of the money are going to be the same at expiration. Before expiration, they're very different. Before expiration and the impact that they have on extrinsic value and the proximity effect, et cetera, are going to be very different, but we're going to get to all of that. From a moneyness standpoint, though, just starting out, at the money and out of the money, no intrinsic value, so they are the same. Wow, so just like that, 105 minutes later, we are done with the moneyness video. If you're actually hearing me say these words and you hung in all the way to this point, I am so thankful and I am so humbled. Even if you don't hear me say these words, I'm thankful and I'm humbled that you checked out the video today. Hey, if I can ever help in any way, guys, you can always reach out to me. Just comment below the video. That would probably be the easiest way. If you have any questions about options whatsoever, whether it be related to moneyness or anything else for that matter, comment below the video. Comment below the video. Let me know what's on your mind, and I'll try to help you in, the best way that I possibly can. If you want to like the video or share the video, or if you want to subscribe to the channel, all of those things would help me out a ton. And so I will see you guys next time.